What is a man? A miserable little pile of podcasts? But enough talk. Actually, not enough talk, because here's some more. From emotional intelligence to Street Fighter, poetry to nature, comic books to other curious things, and everything in between. This is the internet show that asks, what can this teach us about being human? I'm your host, Sam Kirk. Welcome to Team Human. This is The Counter Hit. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is my absolute pleasure to be here with you all today. It's so good to see and hear all of you. I mean, I can't hear you. I'm in a studio. Like, specifically, I'm here, so I can't hear anything. I'm just kind of here in my vacuum. But together, we can be part of Team Human. And that's kind of neat. Welcome aboard, my friends. This is the show where we take the proverbial counter hit against all the other things that are happening in life, both good and bad. Give ourselves a little bit of a break from what's happening in the outside world, recharge a little bit so we can continue the good on fight wherever else we can. Welcome if this is your first time in the internet. We are here, and now so are you. But can I just ask a question? If this is your first time at the internet, why are you here? Like, for real. Like, what? This is where you're going? Not, I don't know, Ask Jeeves, Web Crawler. Kind of a big fan of Web Crawler, if I'm being honest. Liked Ask Jeeves too. Yahoo wasn't bad back in the day. They still exist, but they're not like the same as they used to be. Google, I guess you could have gone to. Twitch, YouTube. YouTube, I think, was the second most used search engine in the world. It's probably going to be first very, very shortly after. Maybe you're watching us on YouTube. Who knows? Is this how you found us? If any case, we're happy you're here. In many ways, we're just wasting time as we transition through life, as we glade through life. And I'm happy to be wasting it with you today. Not to say that waste is such a bad thing. I think it's a delightful thing to do. It's a rebellious thing to do. How we choose to spend the time before we are gone, that's a big mission, a big modus operandi here about the show. By the way, if you like what we're offering, if you like realness, if you like kind of anti-establishment, anti-conglomerate, but more Team Human, more what is it that human beings can do when all of our resources come together, we have a Patreon. I'll tell you more about that Patreon a little bit later, but I want to give a big shout out to all the Patreon members and supporters who've supported the show along the way. They are the real ones, and they're the ones that know that thanks to their efforts, we're able to make not just this show, but a second show and even a third secret side show that's happening. But you only find that out by checking out our Patreon. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But have I done enough? Have I done enough to make you all not want to be part of the show? That's right. One of my missions is to be a permanent wrench in the algorithm. And right now you're trying to figure out what the heck this show is all about. And that's okay. But if you're still curious, well, I'm happy to have you with us. For realsies. I really am. So we got a couple topics I want to talk about today. Some heartfelt ones, some real ones, kind of everything in between. But first off, let me ask you all, have you seen Spider-Man? Have you seen Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey yet? I haven't. It's no spoilers. I want to see them soon. But if you have, tell me what you think. They say it's pretty good. They say Spider-Man is breaking all the box office records. Kind of wild. Kind of crazy when you think about it. And The Odyssey was also breaking records, for being an IMAX movie. IMAX movies are notoriously expensive to make and all that other good stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. Hey, let me know. Let me know if you've seen these films, seen anything in particular. Let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll be happy to dive into those topics with you. But with that, I think it's about time we talk about kind of a more saucy topic. What is it that good old AI has gotten into now? Let's see. So, have you heard what's going on in the world of AI? Of course you have. You're watching this show. More importantly, though, have you heard, have you been keeping track of what's going on when it comes to companies like Anthropic destroying what we believe to be millions of print books to build its AI models? Have you? Have you? Yeah, it's a little spicy, a little not so great. This actually is kind of old news. You see, the fact is, these endeavors, these lovely companies, these AI people, they were stealing data, pirating data, even, which is wild when you think about it. Just absolutely wild. But then they got caught and said, hey, you can't steal data for your AI models, Claude in specific and other ones. So, hey, you got to like buy them legitimately. So they said, word, got you there. They buy all the documents legitimately, and then they destroy the originals. That's right. They make a digital copy, load it into their AI model, and they destroy the originals. That sucks, right? Here's the part I'm not super happy about. This got to the judge, the courts, and the courts ruled that this destructive scanning operation qualified as fair use. Only, and this is a quotation coming from Benji Edwards here at Ars Technica, but only because Anthropic had legally purchased the books first, destroyed each print copy after scanning, and kept the digital files internally rather than distributing them. Okay. Let me. Can I talk about this? I'm going to talk about this. You can't stop me from talking about this. If you are a learning language model, just because we're not able to track how the distribution is going to work out, by proxy of me being able to use this learning language model, and that model basing a lot of its answer spewing back out to me from the copywritten work, is distributing the work in some fashion, even if it's a summary, even if it's twisted and whatever. That is distribution. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? That's a problem, folks. That is a legitimate problem. I have a lot of, I'm not happy about a lot of things when we talk about the use of AI and data centers and all that other good stuff. I mean, it's not good. I have hope on certain elements of AI. I think AI has uses, and we have yet to explore what those specific uses should be on the best level possible. And we also have yet, as a world, agreed upon good safeguards we need on this stuff. It might be that we need a cataclysmic event for that to happen. I say that not because I want that, but just based on the history books, that might be what has to happen. That being said, training your AI models on things and then destroying that stuff and not at least giving it away to a foundation or something that would want to preserve that data is heinous. I don't care if you own it. The truth is you don't own it. I mean, you do and you don't, right? I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later when it comes to like video game licensing. You know, when you purchase a video game, you have never owned a video game. You've owned a license to use that video game, just like you own a license to ingest and have that for the privacy of your own home. But if these are like legacy only copies, why wouldn't we just be, good old Team Human and be like, you know what, now that we've used it, let's give it to a library or something. Like, they're doing it because they want to protect the IP that they have now stolen. This is a form of IP stealing, trademark stealing. Tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. I'm smiling because like we all know this, but like we're just, just sucks, just whatever. Here's the thing though. Here at the Counter Hit, I don't provide bad news and just have us say, man, that fucking sucks. Oops, I cursed. Oh no, the algorithm lords are going to come after me and get me. Fair enough. Fair enough. I respect that. No, I don't believe in doing that. I believe in giving ourselves some kind of resources, some kind of something we can walk away from, whether it's hope, whether it's something more than that, something of that nature to kind of make us feel better about everything. And not just to fluff something up our arseholes, but rather just give us some real humanities back here. And there's a few things I can offer. Again, some of this is old news. Some of it isn't quite so old news. One of those things is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC, as we belovedly know her as. She has enveloped, proposed a bill called legislation that will, if it passes, and we're still a long way from it passing, will require certain benchmarks and gates to be fulfilled before data centers can be built. And it will also be working retroactively as well. It's called the Artificial Intelligence Data Center Moratorium Act. And the quote here is legislation that would create a temporary prohibition on the construction of new data centers and the expansion of existing data centers until Congress passes comprehensive legislation to address the economic, environmental, and safety impacts of artificial intelligence. This is pretty cool, if you ask me. Because, I mean, if we don't have something, these folks are building these data centers, consuming tons of power, resources, impacting families. We've seen this in homesteads that are right next to a data center that's being built right now. Their water's being impacted. The environment's being impacted. I don't want to say this is for sure happening, but there has to be some kind of correlation between the extreme heat, El Nino, the global warming we're facing, and the temperature rising of these data centers. I'm not saying there is definitively. I'm not a scientist, but there has to be some kind of correlation. All that's happening, and no one's doing anything about it. And we can't do anything about it because it's all privatized, right? This bill would, in essence, demand, require that a due vetting process is done. Now, we can all argue whether that vetting process will be comprehensive enough. We can all argue whether or not this is too little, too late, but at least it is something. The good news is the bill is there. The bad news is we've just introduced the bill. It technically got introduced. Part of it got introduced by Bernie Sanders in March of this year, but this provision of the bill kind of got through in June or so, with AOC kind of signing the bill and kind of putting it through. So it's in the beginning phases of the bill itself. It has a lot way to go. It has to pass through the Senate, pass through the House. The president has to do something with it. I mean, to be fair, the president can just not sign something, but it can still get passed into law per our U.S. legislation. It works. But still, it has a long way to go, but it's good that there are good fighters doing the good fight. So I salute AOC and Bernie and everyone else for doing that right thing there. I mean, this is crazy that we have to do this, but in a different kind of world, there would have been safeguards, this kind of thing. A lot of what's happening here, if I can just be candid, if I can be candid with you, as if I'm not already. A lot of what's happening here is the fact that we have a legislation in place that is not thinking for the greater good of everyone, but rather thinking of the greater good for a select few. I don't take pleasure saying that. I'm not happy about saying that, but it's true. And until we get to a place where we feel confident, here in the United States anyway, that our government is going to be focused on the greater whole of people, we got to take our wins where we can, and we got to make sure we vote. Make sure do your voting in November. Vote for the people who are going to represent us and our voices. Fight for this stuff, because we've got one planet here, folks. We've got one planet. And Daniel Pratley, who's a co-founder and co-owner of Zero Dot Media, as well as the Counter Hit, he's a big fan of planet Earth, and so am I. And, I don't doubt that the human beings, we might nuke things to, what, we might destroy a lot of habitat here, and we might even kill ourselves. The planet will still survive somehow. The great George Carlin said it himself that way. But I'd like that not to be the option we go towards. I know there's an accelerationism happening right now, where a lot of folks kind of know that time is running out, and they're trying to speed things along so that way we get a massive disruption of ecosystems and geological systems, so that way those that can pick up the pieces along the side can kind of, be kings afterwards. I know that's happening. If you've been following along, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's what's happening right now. That being said, we can still do quite a bit. We can do quite a bit when it comes to that. And if I can give you another solution on the ground floor, on the ground level, that I think is a worthwhile solution. Have you heard of the Internet Archive? Yeah, have you? Have you heard of the Internet Archive? I'm going to try to, for those that are listening in, if I'm pausing, it's because I'm trying to make sure that I'm in frame for things. Funny how this stuff works. Let's see if I can fix it here. There we go. Awkward. Live. We're doing this live. Have you heard of the Internet Archive? They are a nonprofit entity that every time you go to their website, they're asking for some kind of donation. And folks, I think that's a worthwhile donation. I think it's a worthwhile thing to get into. Donate them $1 even. In the same way that maybe we should, be donating to Wikipedia. I don't know officially, but maybe we should. Because the Internet Archive, unlike other entities, they do not cut off the binding of the book. They don't destroy the book. They digitize it the hard way, one page at a time, and then they preserve the book. They store the original work and the book. So when you are donating time and Internet Archive gets a copy of it, they're doing their due diligence to make sure that not only is there a repository of the old data that we can access freely, might I say, from the sake of preservation. I'm a big preservationist when it comes to this stuff. They also offer an element of, we're not going to destroy this. We're going to either store it somewhere in our warehouse, somewhere safe, or give it to a place that will store it and preserve those things, the physical entity of the thing. So I say all this to say, hey, look, when was the last time you thought about donating to an organization that you really cared about? By the way, not a sponsor. I feel like I need to say that. They are not a sponsor. Not at all. We just got to do what we can to prevent media from getting lost. I don't know if you've read the book. Fahrenheit 451 by good old Ray Bradbury. The whole plot of that book is they burn books. They don't let people read anymore. Any entity that is trying to destroy books, even if they're storing it somewhere else, and they're holding on to the IP themselves, the intellectual property themselves, that is dystopian. That is, that's not good. That's not good. We can try to avoid this. So, folks, once again, consider donating to the Internet Archive. They're good people. They got some good stuff. They've got text. They've got web stuff, text. They got video. They got audio. They even have software that has, entered public domain, and they've been able to store a copy of it. They also have some other things that dubiously might not be legal. I'll let you navigate those seas on your own, the seas of piracy. But still, when it comes to preservation, Internet Archive is one of the best resources you can possibly have. As a video game history buff nerd guy thing, they have stored so many cool resources that I thought we lost, or not even just thought we lost, just hard to find in many cases. And in that way, in that capacity, they're there, like strategy guides, like gaming review journals, like old magazines you can't find anymore. It's all there, folks. It's all there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool if you ask me. So give it a shot. If there's a nonprofit that you care about, consider giving them a couple bucks today. If, of course, you're at a place where literally you are scrounging to survive, don't let me tell you to throw your money elsewhere. Your number one priority is your family, your loved ones, everything else. But if you've got a couple of dollars to spare, consider giving it to a nonprofit. I think they need it more than they ever have. Big ups to Internet Archive for doing what they do. Big negative no's to any entity, Anthropic and those included, that are burning books as they get data. We can do a lot better than this. We can do a lot better. Brings us to kind of one of our meatier topics of the day. I mean, I guess it's kind of meaty. I don't know. You're going to have to tell me about that. Did you know that video games prey upon you as a human being? That's right. They prey upon you in your wallets especially. It's an interesting business, video games. Like I said before, it used to be you paid a certain amount of money, you went to the store, you had a license for that game for your own personal use. However, use that personal use as long as it remained personal and you didn't distribute that anywhere else, you were free to do so. That's the way it used to be. Not so much. Or rather, it's kind of always been a little bit more wibbly-wobbly than that. And now with the advent of things like a constant online internet connection that almost all of us have, devices that we use that have functions we can't turn off. I won't get into the scariness of like online activity and traffic activity, surveillance. With all of those things in the mix, it is easier, more than ever, for game developers and publishers to do whatever they can to squeeze as much juices out of you as they possibly can to make monetary gains from that. This matters, not just because of gaming, but rather gaming being this massive, huge industry that is bigger than the movie and the music industries combined. Yes, that's true in terms of monetary income. Everyone's watching what the gaming industry is doing. And if what they're able to do is successful, and by successful, I mean squeeze as much money as they possibly can, everyone else is going to follow. And we all might be a little screwed right here. This is such a big deal that it's even gotten the attention of Krikzz. Krikzz, who's a kind of a famous financial guy on the interwebs via TikTok, Instagram, and so forth. He actually did a deep dive a couple days ago on the video game industry and specifically how one company achieved the most hated comment in history. That's what the video title is called. And he talks about this danger of this stuff and how it deals with the finances of things. I think it'd probably be a pretty good opportunity for us to dive into this together. And we're going to listen to a little clip right here. I recommend everyone watches and listens to his podcast himself. It's a great podcast. I want to dive into two sections where he talks about this concept called the whale, and we don't own any of this. Let's take a listen right now.
Who's actually spending this money? Is it everyone? And the short answer is no. In fact, it's not many people. In GTA Online, which is this hugely popular game, the one where there's a new version coming out this year that's been 12 years in the making, absolutely enormous. In the last version of that, only 4% of active players spend any money at all beyond buying the base game.
Wow.
But those 4%, they spend a lot. And the industry calls these people whales, which is the exact same term and the exact same vibe as high rollers at blackjack tables.
Yeah.
A small number of people spending a lot of money, and it's across the board. Same number when it comes to Candy Crush, which is the hugely popular mobile game. Only 4% of people spend money in that, but it earns about $1 billion in revenue a year. And Rob, This kind of changes how I think about this whole system, and it makes it feel even more like a casino to me.
Yeah, it is very casino-y. And I think for those people playing it, it's like, well, if I'm spending 10, 15 hours on this game per week, well, this is my hobby. Why wouldn't I spend money on it? But then it's just that constant draw of you might win this, you might get this, and then you get it, and then you don't really get much gratification from it.
$1 billion going into this industry. $1 billion and more, all from the 4%ers, the people that spend the money on this stuff. And we are often incentivized to believe that who cares about them? It's the 96% that aren't spending money. They know better. They're not going to spend money on this stuff. Who cares? Now, what he's talking about are the people that spend additional money on in-game assets after you've already paid for the game. This is a practice that is common amongst all different kinds of games, not just Grand Theft Auto. It was often seen as a goodwill practice amongst video game developers who are making their game free to play. So for instance, if your game is free and costs you absolutely nothing, as a good free will, if you want to spend a little bit extra cash in game towards some customization options, some cosmetic thing within the game, it costs the devs very little to make those stuff, but it's a way for you to get a little bit of value, a lot of value actually for you, because that's what matters to you as a gamer. And that money goes to the developer. And a lot of free-to-play models are dependent on this. GTA, though, is not a free-to-play game. It is a premium game that you've got to pay $80 for. Plus, there's a season pass with extra DLC and cosmetic items and so forth. And plus, on top of that, when you buy that season pass, you're now given a credit card / permission slip inside of the game to buy more stuff. This is infinitely spending. There's no way, no possible way for you to be done spending in the game if you choose. It's literally just however much you want to spend within your wallet. That's insane to me. I've talked about this before here on the podcast, how I despise the fact that if I make the choice to purchase all of a game's DLC, so I want to have the complete package, there are some games where you go to the main menu and it's still advertising to you that same Game Pass, that same premium pass, that same DLC thing that you already own. It's still advertising to you because it still wants to get that in your head, even though there's no way for me to buy more of it. Game developers and publishers will do whatever they can to squeeze all of this out of you. I don't like it. But that's not the scary part, because later on in the same podcast, he talks about, well, do we actually own anything? And like I said before, we have a history of not really owning the video games that we play, and he's got some words about that.
All of this that we've been talking about so far basically amounts to the gaming industry walking. Now they're starting to run. And I mentioned the Sony bombshell earlier. From January 2028, no new PlayStation games will ship on a disc, so it'll be digital only. We've been talking about spending money inside games, but this, I think, is connected. The company behind GTA 6 is Rockstar. It's the biggest game release maybe of all time, and there won't be a physical copy of it. That means there's no shops, there's no secondary market, and it means changes to the game can be made whenever they want. Heaps of backlash on this, as you'd expect. I mean, their own blog posts had thousands of angry comments within hours, days of them announcing this news. Now, there's a change.org petition sitting near 180,000 signatures as I record this, asking Sony to reverse this decision. PlayStation's social accounts have basically gone quiet because every post gets buried in outrage. But as I mentioned, people complain and then they spend.
This part's huge. I know that there's this belief that we're going to be able to turn the tide on this. Like, really? I think we're going to be able to turn the tide by just being really outspoken about this. And I want that to be true. I really do. But the question I have to ask is, are we just stopping ourselves from spending? And the answer is no. Almost always. The answer is, well, I'm really mad and I'll complain, but I'm still going to spend the money. I haven't seen the pre-order figures for GTA. I don't know if GTA has released that information beyond marketing posts, but it's a lot, I'm sure. People are still pre-ordering it, even knowing this, because to them, GTA is a landmark, historic occasion. It doesn't matter if there's no disc copy. It doesn't matter if I don't get to physically own this. It doesn't matter if I'm upset by it. What matters most is that I get what I want, which is the latest Grand Theft Auto. And that's exactly what's happening. They're hedging their bets on this, and I have every belief that Rockstar is going to win. Now, he makes comments later about how it is true that almost every video that Sony publishes about completely unrelated games is totally getting blasted, getting destroyed. Poor developers, like developers that are just trying to release their game and get gamers hyped for their game, they can't seem to catch a break because all the comments are just filled with people just being upset about no discs. And Sony's being quiet. Who knows what they're going to say after a while. That being said, can you really blame Sony manufacturer for doing this. I mean, when the PlayStation 5 came out, they released a digital-only version that you could buy if it was $100 cheaper. And then they released a disk drive that you could pay for, that you could add, but it was encrypted to your console in such a way that once you plugged it in once, you could never use it for any other system. You couldn't exchange it. It was yours forever. Sony gave us options. They're looking at the data in a way that none of us are able to see, and they can see that, hey, we make most of our money on digital sales, and, you know, we got a lot of money from our digital versions of the console, which is probably cheaper for us to manufacture than the disc version of the console. Let's go ahead and go in that direction. And yet, it wasn't long ago that I remember consoles like the Oyas, the Zebo, the streaming consoles that had no disk drive, no physical cartridge you plugged in. And we all reviled against that. We all reviled against that. It's not good when a general finance aficionado gets more involved in what's happening in the gaming space, what's happening in microtransactions, what's happening in the commerce of video games. And he says it before in the podcast that everyone's going to be watching to see what happens, whether this works or not. And if it works even just a little bit, you can see other markets doing very similarly the same thing. So why am I saying this? Well, I think we have an opportunity to be a conscientious consumer and decide when enough is enough. I mean, we're all going to do this anyway. We're all at some point going to be like, hey, gaming is too expensive. I don't get enough value for my buck. I'm done with this. I do believe that will eventually happen. At some point, there's going to be an inevitability. I also believe, though, that it's possible that if enough of us say, okay, this is the moment we could stop spending money, that could send a much more powerful signal than a petition with 100,000 votes, 100,000 signatures, maybe. Even 1 million signatures if it had 100, if it had 1 million signatures. It would just do more if they saw a cataclysmic drop in the finances from that. Because that's how these corporations speak. They speak in terms of money. They speak in terms of what's coming from the consumer side, because that's where they make their bread. That's where all their calculations come from. You know for a fact Sony made this decision knowing full well that there was going to be some kind of backlash from this. Some kind of backlash. They knew it. They knew it was coming. They decided, you know, it was okay to lose a little bit of this because it'd be worth the amount of overhead and profit and gains we'd get from it. They knew it was coming. The only question is, even when they knew it was coming, is it measuring up to their calculated risk that they're making for this? That's what companies are thinking right now. They've been planning this for years, and this is like a big domino to fall. But they had boardroom meetings to talk about this. And by they, I mean the executives that are big, that are thinking 5 to 10 years in the future. They discussed this. They discussed when the PS5 was coming out to, hey, do we want to make a discless version? And they evaluated the market and said, nope, we still need discs. And then they started talking about the PS6. I'm like, do we want to do a discless version? Says, you know what? I think we can probably, I think we can make that the standard. We can do that. I think so. It's possible. It does not feel good to feel like you are a beta tester or a cog in a system. There's a way to break free from this. Again, not giving them your commerce if you can withstand it. Oh, but the latest game is so cool. I need to have it. Yes, that's how they're winning. That's how they win against your limbic brain system. They're getting your emotional core out so that way you don't have the opportunity to make a delayed decision. And so that's the hack, right? When we were Zero Dot Podcast, we had a wonderful therapist to kind of give us some of these biohacks. And I'm not a licensed therapist, but I can give us all a little bit of a biohack right now. We cannot stop ourselves from doing what it is we want to do. What we can do is give ourselves alternative action plans of things we would rather do instead. Because the human brain can't think of a negative. So if I say, hey, don't think about an elephant, too late, you've all failed, you've all thought about an elephant. in the process of trying not to think of an elephant, right? So what we can do is say, whenever you think of an elephant, make sure to do this right afterwards, shortly afterwards, or instead. So perhaps a good alternative action plan for some people. I'm not here to suggest what yours should be, but should be, hey, when a big AAA game that I'm looking forward to is about to come out and I'm super excited for it, don't pre-order it. You already know you're going to buy it. Don't pre-order it. Say goodbye to the pre-order bonus, whatever that is. Usually the pre-order bonus exists in a 3-day window, even after the game's been come out, but some game developers don't follow that rule. But don't pre-order it. Big believer in that. Nakey Jakey is a big proponent of not pre-ordering things. I've never believed in pre-ordering things. Not once has there been an issue where a game store has run out of copies of a game in the past 20 years. In the past 20 years. There's been artificial times when they've done that. I've gone to a game store day one. I said, hey, I'd like to buy this game. They say, sorry, I can't offer you any. Not for 3 days. Because we can only offer you copies if you've pre-ordered. Oh, do you like not have enough copies? Oh, no, we'll have plenty of copies. We come back in 3 days. I've gotten that. And so, you know what it is? I went to the Target next door and they had a copy for me. And that GameStop no longer exists. Very rarely is there a situation where there's literally no games available for something and you can't just go somewhere else to grab your game. They know that, but they still tell you you got to pre-order. And then they try to incentivize you by saying you get something extra for doing it. What would happen if you didn't pre-order anymore? And then if you're already on the no pre-order bandwagon, hey, scare quotes, Sam Kirk, I already do this. Cool. What would happen if you waited a week? Game comes out on Tuesday. You waited the next Tuesday. Or if it's a Nintendo game, Friday. The next Friday. What happened if you waited a week? Instead of buying it the moment it comes out, wait 1 week. If you already do that, wait 2 weeks. Maybe some of you say, you know what? I'm going to wait till it goes on sale. Great. Although whenever you buy something on sale, they're also collecting data on that from you as well. Because every time they do a sale, they don't make a ton of money from the sale during the sale. They make money after the sale is done. There's a spike of sales then because people missed out and they wish they had gotten it. And that tells them a lot about what people like and don't like, and tells them about market evaluations and pricing and MSRPs, and they still use that data. But being kind of a conscientious buyer and buying things when you just feel like buying, so you're kind of like a blip in the radar and they can't detect you, there's kind of a rebellious satisfaction in doing that. As a gamer, as someone who loves gaming, I want you to keep buying games. I want you to keep supporting the developers. I don't want you to hold out on them, but this is where they hold you emotional hostage. And you are getting forked over, to use the PC term, over and over and over again. What would happen is, instead of you going on your basest impulse, what would happen if instead you delayed that response just by a little bit? You might be surprised by the results. You might be surprised that you're able to enjoy the piece of artwork even more because you wait a little bit longer, delayed gratification. And we might see a ripple effect if enough of us started doing this. I know I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm always challenging myself to do it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. I've given myself rules about when to buy things, when not to buy things. I generally never pre-order something. I've fallen into a rabbit hole buying things on day one from time to time. But I always feel a lot better when, oh man, I want that game. I'm going to wait until the right time. And by the right time, I mean, I've got the available time on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've got free time available. I can play a video game. Oh, let me check out that video game. And it's been months sometimes. I go, hey, look, it's on sale. And I saved myself a couple bucks. I'm able to enjoy the game. Of course, there are developers that I love so much, smaller indie developers. I want them to get my support right away, so I do buy their games immediately. But I'm asking that all of us just be a little bit more conscientious when we buy things. Because this is what's happening. They're emotionally hijacking us. And once they emotionally hijack us, when we get to a place where, wait a minute, I don't own the game anymore. My avatar that I bought all these skins for, that's gone now. You've just taken that from me. They can just waive the privacy policy, the license agreement policy that you very, absentmindedly just scrolled through and click select yes, so you just authorize and keep going so you could play your game that you wanted. They just wave that in front of you. You signed it. You agreed to it. We've been doing this all along. That's what's going to happen. And before you come at me and say, oh, you're probably just saying that because you just think the good old days of gaming was better. Look, man, if you grew up in the arcades, they had you even worse. You had to pay money each time you were to play the game, and you never owned the game. You went to the arcade, played good old Street Fighter 2. If I wanted to play Ryu, I had to pay $0.25 every single time. That was a gold mine for gaming when we bought into that system. It made them sweat bullets. Made them literally sweat bullets. When we weren't willing to do that anymore, when we weren't willing to get into an arcade and just spend that kind of disposable income anymore. When we looked at our gaming console, like the PlayStation 1 and the Saturn and the Dreamcast, this thing can do just as well as everything else. This thing can do just as well as everything else. They were sweating bullets for realsies. This probably is, I don't know, depending on how your age range, but there was a time in the mid 2000s when gaming companies were pushing out tons of compilation discs of tons of retro games on one disc for like $20. They thought these games were worthless. They thought they were making a couple bucks off of us and we were paying $20 for these big collections. Now it's like you want a collection that's going to have 5 games on it max and it's going to cost $40 to $50. Whereas before it had like 20 to 30 to 40 games on it for $20. Sure, that's inflation, but it's also market expectations. We can do better. We can be a conscientious consumer and push back a little bit in the way that makes sense for us. Because that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of game companies like Rockstar. I'm afraid of Sony just doing this, and we all complain and get mad, and then we quietly kind of forget, and we make that decision that, you know what, I want this gaming thing so bad, I'm willing to compromise on my values and what I want. I think we can do a smidge better. But you tell me what you think. Drop in the comments below. Hey, if you're still listening, congratulations. You're halfway or 3/4 through something. Some people can never say that. But also, if you're still listening, you might be interested in how you can listen to more counter-hit stuff. That's right. The show that keeps on giving. We have a Patreon called patreon.com/0.media. And for the measly sum of $3.99 or your regional equivalent, you can join Club 0. Where you get first look access and not just the counter hit, but also super secret awesome shows we are developing outside of the counter hit. That's right. We have a second show coming up. Let me ask you this. Do you like books? Do you like books and video games? What if we smushed them together into a super show? We had a much more talented person behind the mic hosting that beyond just me. That show right now is in development. And if you're listening to this on the week that this episode's being aired, that means that the Patreon folks have already seen the first episode and more episodes are to come to them first and first only. You get access to that, plus additional touch points from your host, Sam Kirk, myself. Our goal here at 0. is to give our Patreon members so much value for their $3.99 that you're just wondering, how do they do it? That's our goal. And of course, you can always give more than that if you'd like. We don't put a cap. Some people have given a lot more than that, and we are so appreciative of it. These shows are only made possible thanks to our Patreon members, and we thank them dearly. So once again, if you are interested in joining the Patreon family, go ahead and check us out at patreon.com/0.media and get in on the fun club. It's a good time. Also, we have a Discord. It's a cool little private little Discord we all hang out in. It's a good time. All right, let's see what else we have to say. right. So what else we got going on today? A couple good things I want to kind of highlight for us all if we have the spoons for them. I was remiss in not bringing this up in the beginning of the show. It's a little bit of an older piece of news, but it's something that's been circulating the World Wide Web for a little bit in my social medias, and I thought it'd be a good time to kind of remind people of this. And that is the good news of the wonderful people that are inventing crazy technologies in the healthcare space. It's helping everyone across the globe. And of course, I'm here to talk to you about the lovely and the wonderful Dacia Taylor. Dacia Taylor, at just 17 years old, became a nationally recognized scientist by creating color-changing sutures that detect infection. Her invention was centered around equity. Her main career focus, making this life-saving medical technology accessible to everyone. Fun fact, this technology uses beets, which change color at different pH levels, as a natural indicator of infection. That's pretty cool. When beets detect acidity changes in skin, the sutures change from bright red to dark purple. This color change serves as early detection of an infection. Dacia supposedly came up with this idea after learning about smart sutures that use technology to detect wound changes and sync to a doctor's computer or smartphone. Knowing that this expensive technology would not be accessible to people in developing countries, where infection from surgical wounds is comparatively much higher, Dacia set out to create a much more cost-effective solution. We love good news like that. Absolutely. Thank you, Dacia. Dacia is working on a patent right now to make that as cost-effective as she possibly can. Thank you for that. And for that alone, I will say, you are one of our zero dot people of the day. Yeah. Let's lighten the mood, if we can, shall we? Talk about something a little bit more fun, a little more vibey. Some good news in the world of gaming. As you are aware, we are fans here of fighting games here. And the popular video game, Street Fighter 6, just released a pretty significant balance patch for those that are interested in this kind of thing. All being told, I haven't really put any dedicated time to Street Fighter 6 in quite a while, probably since the end of season 2 or so. So I'm kind of a stranger in all of these things. Still, it's kind of interesting to see this balance patch come through, and Capcom, as per usual, has done their due diligence in providing patch notes. So that way we can all kind of take an inside glimmer as to what their ideology is here. Now, for those that are new to the fighting game space, in fighting games, it was very popular for a big update to occur, and you had to pay full price to play this new update. Usually this update had all kinds of interesting new mechanics, new characters, new backgrounds, new art, new modes. They did a lot, the game developers, to try to incentivize you to just pay for this update wholesale every single time. Nowadays, they drip and drab. They trickle you with, character passes you buy to buy a brand new character or 4 new characters. And usually these balance updates, as they're calling them, are free. So you be the judge as to whether you think that's a better ecosystem than it was before. But with this ecosystem right here, announced August 3rd, 2026, that's today, they say, this is quoting from Capcom's website, this battle adjustment was done with the aim of shifting the game's balance by looking at every character and making adjustments. Okay? While we believe the game's balance has reached a reasonable, stable state thanks to repeated adjustments. Okay. The relative strength of each character has not shifted significantly in recent updates. Yep. And depending on your ideology, that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. Who knows? Due to this, we decided to implement changes specifically to shake things up. Please note that there are no adjustments applied universally to all characters, and it moves on to some other things here. So the purpose of this balance patch is not to rebalance the game or make it even better. It's to literally shake things up, because as they've been fine-tuning this game to a very specific spot, characters have kind of stayed where they are in terms of the balance of power between other different characters. And in the world of gaming and fighting games, that can be really boring for people. So they are doing a kind of fun, shake things up kind of patch. That's curious because that is not the direction I think or thought Street Fighter 6 was going in. They are definitely in the esports space, the Capcom Cup, the Evolution fighting game series. They're trying to milk that esports cow as much as they can. From a business perspective, I wonder if they're doing this because they've seen a significant higher drop off of players than they were expecting, and they're trying to renew some kind of interest in the game while still trying to keep the competitive ecosystem very similar. Who knows? I can't speak to whether any of these changes are going to be better or worse, but I can speak to whether I think they're interesting and fun and might provide some particular value. Let's walk through a couple of these changes right now. Modern control adjustments. So for those playing Street Fighter 6 for the first time, you played for a while, there's two different modes of controlling in Street Fighter 6. There's classic and there's modern. Classic is the way you've played Street Fighter 1 through up until 6. You got a joystick or directions or maybe even a leverless with buttons, and you've got 6 command buttons, 3 punches, 3 kicks. Jab, strong, fear, short, forward, roundhouse. If you want to put some macros on there, you can, but generally it's about a 6-button game. Modern controls tried to simplify this with a general low, medium, and heavy attack of varying kinds, a special dedicated move button, and other buttons that are dedicated as well. But it ended up being kind of a 7-button game, technically by definition. In a weird way, it became more complicated, but the thing about modern controls is it allowed you to almost instantly react to things with certain special inputs because there wasn't a requirement for special inputs anymore. You just always have the right answer if you did it right. This says here, with this battle adjustment, we've updated certain normal moves that utilize the attack button and special moves, ones that utilize the special button for specific characters. Additionally, for moves that are performed by pressing down plus the special button, you can now select the strength of the special move by inputting down back, down, or down forward. Oh, interesting. So in modern controls, you didn't really have access to different strengths of moves like you did in classic. Like I said, you have light, medium, heavy on the punches and kicks. Jab, strong, fear, short, forward, roundhouse. Here, they're giving you a little bit of that, especially when the down special is what you're trying to go for. Interesting. I am one who thinks that a modern control scheme could absolutely work. I'm really curious to see it work. What I played in Street Fighter 6 wasn't quite it, but I'm glad they're still tackling that beast and trying to do something with it. I think that's interesting and fascinating. I think it'll probably need a deeper rehaul than what's currently there, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. All right. And then obviously with this modern control scheme, it looks like they're going to be changing up how some of the layout of these moves work and assisted combos and so forth and how they've been reflected. I guess that's a character by character basis. So beyond that, there's a bunch of different characters we could look at. Let's look at just a few that I think are pillars of Street Fighter. So first ones first, let's look at Ryu. Regardless of your opinion, Ryu is like the center of Street Fighter. He's the Hadouken, the Shoryuken, the Tatsumoke Senpu kick, or as Aaron from Ego Raptor says, yes, I'd like some pound cake, right? He's the central character of what Street Fighter is all about. And here's what we got here. So Ryu has received adjustment at improving his ability to maintain offensive momentum after successfully landing attacks. These include changes to the pushback on block for his standing light punch and solar plexus strike, as well as improved post-hit situations after whirlwind kick, aerial Tatsumaki Senpu kick, etc. We've also made adjustments on his overdrive arts, wouldn't fully connect in certain situations. Okay. From what this reads, they're not fundamentally changing how Ryu plays. And I'm just going to go on a hot little take and say that's a little bit of a bummer because I have never been super satisfied with how Ryu played in Street Fighter 6. To me, Ryu and the fireball being one of the most important tools in his arsenal, I feel like his fireball is not the most important tool in a world where Drive Rush is so powerful. And so I would have loved for them to enhance the fireball a bit. And this does not read like they're going to be making any of those changes. I'm looking through here if there's any adjustments made to his fireball specifically. Okay, look, overdrive Hadouken. Reduced combo count initial value and additional value on the first and second attacks. Okay. Got it. Increase combo count, additional value on the final attack. Okay. So basically, it allows the move to connect in more combo-specific situations, but it doesn't enhance the damage at all. Okay. Got it. Yeah. And that's it. And you can look at frame data. All right. Let me look at one more character. I'm curious to see what they've done with Zangief. So Zangief is a character that is a grappler. His whole idea is to grab you in close proximity and do a ton of damage to you. And they've decided in modern Street Fighter that whereas before grabs were instantaneous or 1 frame, they try to give you like 5 frames now before a grab happens. So you can jump out of grabs. And so Zangief has an aerial grab and 2 ground SPD type grabs, 3 technically by definition, plus his normal grabs. So he's kind of like a mixed up character. And in a world with Drive Rush, he's kind of like he can be like kind of an oppressive rushdown character in some cases. I've seen it happen. I'm curious to see what they changed here, because one of the dynamics of Zangief is that he has this lariat, this spinning lariat that he has. It's a good anti-air option for sure, but it doesn't hit behind him. And a lot of Zangief players, myself included, would have loved if the lariat hit a little bit behind him. Let's see. The change to Power Stomps adds another low attack option to Zangief's options. We've also looked to increase situations players can aim to go for double lariat, okay, and Russian suplex, and reduce the number of situations he's left at a disadvantage when whiffing an attack or trying to take his turn. All right, some buffs to Power Stomps, which is a move that is safe, but only in like certain situations, like after a drive rush or on wake up or something of that nature. And double layer, we've expanded the attack hitbox against crouching opponents. But this only occurs if the attack is performed as a cancel from a normal attack. Oh, so if you cancel it from a normal, it might hit the crouching opponent. That's interesting. This adjustment ensures that if the attack connects with the opponent's body, such as when landing the tip of crouching medium punch or standing light kick on punish counter, double layer will always combo so long as you hold forward. Okay, so it's just a combo extender. Okay. And then Russian suplex. We've just how this move works. So now that using the heavy kick will always result in Russian suplex no matter the distance. Oh. So the way this worked for Zangief initially, Russian suplex or Siberian Express is the same input, but it depended on how close you were proximity wise. If you're far away, it's Siberian Express, where he does like a bear running grab. He's got his arms up and he runs up and he comes right at you. Russian suplex is the one most people want because it's a little bit faster and it does a ton of damage. So here it says if you're using the heavy kick button, every time it's going to be Russian suplex. Although the damage for a heavy version is slightly lower than the light or medium versions, the post-attack situation and super art gain is the same, in addition to its effective lit range being expanded. So reducing the damage, that's weird. Makes sense, but it's weird. Interesting. All right. I could go through more characters, I'm sure. But it sounds like this is they say it's to shake things up, and maybe it will, but it still feels like it's going to be mostly the same Street Fighter 6. So if you love Street Fighter 6, you're in a good time. If you don't like Street Fighter 6, I don't know if you're going to have a great time. I just don't. I don't know. You be the judge. You tell me. All right, folks. We got to get a little personal today. Got to switch things up just a smidge. I want to talk to you about something also gaming related. I promise we're not all going to talk about nothing but gaming, but something also gaming related that is a hem in my craw, as they say. So here's the deal. My mother passed away in June. And in that matter of time when my mother was in hospice and my mother passing away, I've just had this natural, as one does, this desire to kind of go back on my childhood and get some comfort from that. And one of the things I recalled from that period in time when I was with my mom was the good old Nintendo 64. Not the greatest console ever made. I'll talk about that later at some other time, but it was a console during a time in my life that was very formative, and I just, for whatever reason, maybe it was Star Fox 64, the remake coming out on Nintendo Switch, just felt the need to kind of dive into it a little bit more, just kind of enjoy it, bask in the Nintendo 64. And at the same time, there was this little doohickey, this little guy that was being developed by a company called Analogue. That was a FPGA recreation of the Nintendo 64 with an upscaling technology of 4K resolution. I am just so we're on the same page. I have purchased a lot of Analogue products. I own the Analogue Mega SG, the Analogue Super NT. I own 2 Analogue Pockets. I'm an Analogue fan, we'll call it. If you want to call me a shill, go for it. If you want to call me biased, go for it. I don't love their products. They've all got a couple of warts that I'm not the craziest about. The Mega SG, no matter what I do with that device, I can't get the sound to sound exactly like the Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis. I accept that, but it bugs me. The Super NT actually is better than the original Super Nintendo hardware because Super Nintendo hardware has a couple of faults to it when it comes to its video quality, that it just comes out of the box fixing that. And I think don't quote me on this, but I think it's a smidge faster too, which is fine for me because I always felt Super Nintendo was a slow moving machine. And the Pocket is great with the dock and everything, and it's cool stuff, but I've never found it super comfortable to use. So I think all the Analogue products, they're sold as like boutique, luxurious retro gaming devices under the guise that you're playing the most accurate way to play these games with an HD TV in front of you. I don't think they always hit the mark. That being said, I was in the market and it was available, and I thought I'd go ahead and grab myself the Analogue 3D. The Analogue 3D. I got the black edition right here. It looks really fancy. Let me change it over here. Yeah. The Analogue 3D is the Nintendo 64 version of a recreated retro console. It's their latest one, and it is specifically designed for the Nintendo 64. It's got a couple of cool enhancements on it. So, for instance, it's got Bluetooth technology. It's got access to Wi-Fi. You can use Bluetooth-specific controllers on this. In fact, I bought them. These are made by a company called 8-Bit Dough. They look like this. Notice how they look like a traditional controller, but they're just N64ified. I'll get to that a little bit later, but this is compatible with the Nintendo Switch and Switch 2, as well as your Analogue 3D device. And it's cool to be able to play this with all wireless controllers if that's what you so chose and wanted to do. It comes with a bespoke SD card slot that one has to use to update the firmware and BIOS. It also has built inside of it a controller pack and expansion pack. That's a big deal because on the N64, expansion pack was something separate you had to plug into the device. And certain games you didn't want to run with the expansion pack, and certain games you did. Like, for instance, Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. You can technically run that with the expansion pack, but when you do, it's only a matter of time before that thing crashes, almost every time. It's a game-breaking bug. So you kind of want to play it in low res mode with the expansion pack turned off if you can. It's all pre-baked right here into the system. Now, I'll get to the controllers in a second, the 8-bit DOE controllers, but I want to talk about what I bought alongside all of that stuff. I've talked about this before in the Patreon-only version of this show. I was talking to one of our lovely Patreon supporters, Robert Restant. I used to have a pretty impressive Nintendo 64 collection. Truly, I did. I had about 50 games, which doesn't sound like a lot, but keep in mind, I believe the United States library of Nintendo 64 was only 288 total games, I think. And I think internationally, there's only 388 games. I think that's the number. So having 50 games was a lot. And they were all the big hits like Ocarina of Time, Perfect Dark, GoldenEye, Super Mario 64, Mario Kart, Diddy Kong Racing, Resident Evil 2. What a wild game. I had all those. And in one of the great gaming purges of my life, when I really needed the money and things weren't going so well for me, I sold a lot of them. I kept a few, so I still have Perfect Dark and GoldenEye and Mario 64. I also have a copy of Rogue Squadron. Great game, but I'm surprised that's one of the ones I kept. There's a lot of them I'm missing. So I used to have these games. I still have them somewhere via local backup some way, thanks to sources like Internet Archive and other things. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. They're still mine. I own them. And, you know, of course, I have the technology with my, I have arcade boards where I dump data on those things. I wanted a way to be able to switch between all the different Nintendo 64 games that I own. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Have a good time with them. So I picked up a Everdrive 64 cartridge. X7. X7 because it's on X5, it's on X3, it's the real deal. It's the whole kit caboodle. This was, when I bought it, the best Everdrive for N64 you could buy. And this is my rub, folks. This is what I'm not happy about. I said the word was. And that's because literally today, on August 3rd, 2026, I've only had my device for a couple days. The Everdrive 64 Pro has come out. What the? That's not fun. Not fun for anyone. I didn't get an email saying, hey, this is coming up. Maybe you want to wait until this comes out. Nope. I had to wait 2 whole weeks for this to come. Not complaining. They're from Ukraine, and the whole shipping thing is a nightmare. And I'm so happy that Krikzz is able to operate out of Ukraine. That's where his country's from. Like, I'm not hating on that. It's just, man, this thing just came out. Why didn't I know? I'm not happy about this because I've bought almost every Everdrive device for all my retro consoles. Game Boys, Sega, Nintendos. And I feel like I got ripped off here, especially just bad timing, right? I am in the process of trying the, there's another flash cart on the market that is quite ubiquitous. It's open sourced. So unlike the Everdrive, this will be open source. I'm going to check that out. Because the one thing that this Pro Everdrive has is the ability to place native Nintendo 64 DD games, disk drive games. There's only a handful of those games. So it's not that much of a loss. But still, it's the principle of the thing. Also, this Everdrive X7, I was trying to run a fun ROM hack with it called Super Smash Bros. Remix Plus Extra. And that doesn't work on this because this has a cap on how big the file size for your N64 ROMs can be when you patch them. This Pro, as well as the open source cartridge I'm going to be trying, doesn't have that same issue. So I'll keep on the loop and how that works out. I'm bummed out about that. Because I'm on a roll of enjoying good old Nintendo 64. I'm also bummed out about something else. I bought my Analogue 3D, and I bought it with 4 of these controllers. Because I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have it wireless and play with a modern scheme and just kind of relive the days? I have 2 legitimate N64 controllers at home. It's not a big deal. this is fine. But if you're watching this on video, you know this is an N64 controller. You need the 3 prongs. They made it modern and it's like this controller is meant for someone who doesn't like the N64. And that was my mistake because I love the N64 controller. It's not the perfect controller, but for what it is, it's great. And this controller is meant for the person who's like, I hate the N64 controller, just shoves it in their hand. I'm like, I can get with this. I wish there was a right analog stick, but I can get with this. It's actually more confusing because both the bottom triggers are Z. They're both the same Z. So you get to choose which Z you want to click. But in my head, Z is always the left hand, right? It's always the left hand. It operates fine. The joystick itself is Hall effect, if that matters to you. I found that Hall effect is just a nice marketing term. I'm not saying it doesn't do something, but for most people, Hall effect doesn't make a difference. It's a big, thick stick, and it's like a GameCube stick for some people. Not like the big, thin, wobbly one, which again, if you love the N64, you kind of need that classic stick, in my opinion. But overall, those things aside, I like the Analogue 3D. It's pretty cool. It's got a couple cool features, like I said before, baking in the expansion pack and the controller pack in there. More importantly, though, it has this cool like overdrive feature where you can like unlock the frame rate and like take it to multiple nths of degrees of insanity. Some games break with it, but some games run really nicely with it. I've been playing Perfect Dark with the unleashed CPU profile, and you get a frame rate of like upwards of 60 FPS and sometimes as low as 40. That sounds heinous, but considering Perfect Dark runs at 30 to 15, no, I think it's like 20 frames to like 15 frames and sometimes 5 frames. It gets real bad. My friends and I have been able to crash Perfect Dark many a time. Good old proximity mines and mines and so forth. This guy's able to overclock these games and run circles in a way that feels better than running it through an emulator, which is my final point. I'm a fan of emulation. I think emulation is a great tool. N64 emulation is still not. It's not great. It's fine. Some people might really enjoy it, but I'm not the biggest fan of N64 emulation. And in my opinion, the two things you need is to run the game on OG hardware and preferably have the original controller, unlike what the 8-bit DOs are. These are fine. They will do. I'll continue to play with them and have fun with them, but I would prefer having a real legit N64 controller. They also run well on Switch. But as I have learned playing a lot of N64 games on the Switch online service, they don't emulate super well there either. Even Nintendo's official emulator has bugs and glitches and texture issues that just don't exist in the real game. Notice some audio lag in Star Fox 64, which is a real shame. Not a big deal since I can play the original and I can play the remake, but still, Switch Online service version isn't the best. So anyway, I'll give you more of a fuller breakdown of what the Analogue 3D can do at a later date. I think it's a cool piece of kit. I don't think you need it though. If you already have an N64, there are resources available to plug and play an HDMI kind of adapter to the video port, and you'll get very good results if you want to play on the truly authentic hardware. I can say if you want the best Everdrive, the X7 is no longer that. The Pro is. Let me know if you get one. Let me know if you like it. I'd love to kind of know a little bit more about that. But right now I'm just going to wait for my my alternative open source flash drive with 64 DD support comes in. I'll see how that works out for you, and I'll let you all know. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the space in the times. Let's get weird, shall we? The internet is a really, really weird space for a lot of us. It's got good stuff, bad stuff, bizarre stuff, not safe for work stuff. Don't worry, we're not going to get into not safe for work stuff here. But I thought it'd be nice for us to kind of dip and dive into the lovely discoveries we might have on the internet. And one of those things happened from a good friend of mine. His screen name goes by the name of warez. So warez, thank you for this shout on this tweet. That's right. Talk about tweets today. I won't call them x.com posts, even though it is x.com. And no, I'm not a member of Twitter/x.com anymore. I left that ship a long time ago. That being said, when good things happen on other platforms, I think it's important to highlight what some of those things are. And this is a fun, I would call it just pure poetry post coming from a user, Nobunaga/JP. Every single line of this is just absolute poetry. And I want to share it all with you right now. Without any further ado, it goes like this. I needed to move a sofa. I mentioned this to an American. He said, "Do you know anybody with a truck?" I did not know anybody with a truck. He looked at me with real concern. Not pity. Concern. The way you look at a man who has told you he does not have a name. You gotta know somebody with a truck. I asked how one acquires such a person. He said, "You just do." This is the third time I've received that answer in this country. It is the answer to everything here. You just do. There is no process. There is only the eventual fact of having. He said, "Ask Kevin." I do not know a Kevin. He said Kevin like I should. He said it the way you say a shared uncle. I met Kevin 4 days later. Kevin owns a truck. Kevin does not own a truck for himself. Nobody owns a truck for themselves. Kevin owns a truck for a 15-mile radius. Inside, I said, "This man has taken a vow." He did not announce it. He simply purchased a bed and accepted the consequences. Kevin arrived on Saturday. He brought the truck. He also brought a second man. I had not asked for a second man. The second man's name is Tony. Tony came because Kevin came. Tony did not know me. Tony did not ask what we were moving. Tony brought gloves. They moved the sofa in 11 minutes. I offered them money. Both of them laughed, which felt rehearsed and was not. I asked what I owed them. Kevin said, "Buy the pizza." That is the price. That is the entire economy. The truck costs one pizza. And the pizza is non-negotiable, and the pizza is also not expensive, and everyone knows what size. Inside, I said, the fee is fixed across the entire nation and was set by no one. We ate on the floor because the sofa was against the wall, and none of us wanted to be the first to sit on it. Tony told me his daughter plays soccer. I asked if she is good. He said, "She's aggressive." I still think about that. Me too. 3 weeks later, Kevin texted me. "You free Sunday?" Helping Tony move a fridge. He did not ask if I wanted to. He informed me of a fridge. Inside, I said, "I've been called up. I did not enlist. The papers were filed on my behalf." I went. I moved the fridge. I have no truck. I contributed only arms. Afterward, a man I had never met asked me if I knew anybody with a truck. I said, "Yeah, I got a guy. I have a guy. I am somebody's guy now, too. Tony has told 2 people about me. He described me as the guy who's strong for his size. I have never been prouder of a sentence in my life. All right, folks, we've been talking a bit about fighting games today, and I think it's important that we keep up our promises to our Patreon members. One of our Patreon members, David Rivera, asked us to kind of talk about a different fighting game term or piece of concept in fighting games to help illustrate to people that anyone can understand fighting games if they want to. And we want to do that right now for our listeners, to everyone. And thank you, David Rivera, for the idea. So, folks, I love fighting games. I think they're pretty cool. And I think everyone can play them. What gets scary for people is when people talk about this thing called frame data. Frame data, numbers. Blah. Okay, yeah. It's a little scary, okay? It sounds intimidating. But I promise you, we can talk about fighting games in a way, using the word frame data in a way that doesn't scare anyone, and everyone can walk away just a little bit smarter. So when we talk about frame data, what are we talking about? Well, imagine a baseball pitcher. And imagine what they do when they walk up to the plate. They wind up their arm, they swing their arm, and then they let go. And the ball exits their hand, and the ball is going who knows how fast, really blazing fast. And you get a strike, another strike, and you're out. They do that multiple times in a game. Every single time a baseball player does this, they are committing an action that is easy for our eyes to understand, but all of us do it on a daily basis. Everything has a beginning, everything has a middle, and everything has an end. Or put another way, everything we ever do as a physical human being has a wind-up. It has a moment in which things are happening and we're making contact with the thing we're doing, and then we have a recovery or a cool down. Everything has this. Everything. Very few things in life are truly instantaneous. And the same thing can be said for fighting games. Fighting games are, whether it's 2D or 3D, games with what we call animations. So every single character, they're bipedal characters of some kind, arms and legs. Before they're about to land a punch, they're about to wind up for that punch. Then they land the punch, and then they start recovering from that punch. Every single character, with a few exceptions, has this applied to almost all of their moves. A wind up, a piece where they're making contact, and then the recovery. Those 3 phases. And today I want to talk to you about how we can understand frame data from a perspective of understanding just those 3 elements. Wind up, how we make contact, and then the recovery phase. But let's change the language just a smidge. Because I've been using the words wind up, how we make contact, and cool down. And let's change it to the startup of a move, the active part of the move when the move's making contact, and then we can call it the cool down, or we can call it the recovery. meaning the arm. If you're doing a big swing with your arm, you're recovering. Your arm has to recover. You can't just freeze in place and retract back. That's not how the laws of physics and thermodynamics work, right? So let's talk about from the perspective of there is a startup, an active, and a recovery. Every move in every fighting game generally follows this basic principle. The startup in a move for a fighting game character, you're getting ready to do the move, but you're not quite doing anything yet. It looks like you're doing something, but you're actually not. The active part of the move is the move that actually does something. It hits you. It attacks you. It will do damage if you run into collision with it. And then the recovery part has to happen. If we could, we'd skip this in whatever way we can. But if you get hit while you're recovering, you're totally vulnerable because you're recovering while you do it. See, basic language. We understand this. Now, the next part to understand about frame data. For a majority of fighting games, what you see on the screen is not 100% commiserate to what's happening in the game code. Don't worry. I'm not using scary language here. Just in the game code, there's animation frames, and then there's what we call hit boxes. These are collision boxes, little squares that the game decides if something interfaces with those squares, something will happen. And for us, when something interfaces with a square, we get hit, they get hit, nobody gets hit. That's how the logic works. So, in the most basic of terms, during the windup of a move, the startup of a move, the hitbox for you being able to attack the person usually isn't going to be there. During the active frame of the move, that's when the part where you can attack someone and hurt someone exists. And then on the recovery, the active frame is gone once again. It's like the cost you have to pay for, the toll you have to pay to do this move. If you're watching this on video, I'd like to demonstrate to you right now on my screen so you can see this. Here you see an animation frame of a move. I believe it's Dudley's jab. So Dudley is a character from the game Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. And on my screen, you'll see that he has a variety of boxes all over him, in blue and red. He has a green box to tell us where he is positioned, generally speaking. And we're about to see an animation play out. This move, this jab of his is 12 frames long. 12 frames. What does that mean? You're already confusing me, Sam. Don't worry about it. A majority of fighting games run on 60 frames a second, 1/60th of a second. 12 frames means this exists for 12/60ths of a second. It's a pretty fast jab. Whew, whew. Now I'm going to slow it down real slow so we can see each part of this together. We'll notice that when we start this jab animation, there's the windup, there's the active. The windup is Dudley getting into position, throwing the jab, and you'll see a little bit of a red box appear right by Dudley's arm. That part of the equation, that part of the animation is the active part of the move. So the parts before and after are not active parts, which means that Dudley is vulnerable to attack during those phases. He's vulnerable during the entire move, but the only time in which he's actually doing any kind of damage is during the active frames. Let's look at another example. Let's stop this one right here. Let's look at another example together. Let's look at Ken. Same basic principle, okay? We're going to slow down the animation, real nice and slow. He's going to do a fierce punch. And right now, he's got blue boxes or reddish, bluish boxes all over. When we play the animation, we see that it does a lot of flashing. I don't know why that's going to cause me a seizure right here. Here we go. This flashing is gone. We see when we play the animation, he has a big windup, and then the active part of the frame, his elbow and his fist, only exists for a certain part of it before it disappears again, and you will see the windup there. Every single move in a fighting game operates this way. There are a few exceptions. In some games, throws, for instance, are instant, so there's no hitbox to show that. That's true. But generally speaking, if you can understand on a fighting game level that every single move that you have when you're playing a fighting game There's a beginning, a middle, and end to that animation. And the beginning is generally vulnerable. The end is generally vulnerable. And the middle part, the active part, wherever that exists, is the part where you're actually doing damage. Well, you'll have a deeper understanding of fighting games than most people do. Now, I've been playing this in slow motion. If I turn up fast speed, so 60 frames per second, you will see that the move operates incredibly quickly. So speed is definitely a factor in terms of reaction times and everything else. So that is your fighting game tip for the day when it comes to frame data and hitboxes. We can get into the nerdy stuff a little bit later, but I wanted to talk to anyone who's listening and watching so they can understand how frame data is understood on the most basic of levels. And I plead to you all one final plea. As a fighting game fan, I love fighting games. They're great. It's within your best interest to have as much of an understanding of the fighting game that you can withstand. And that includes stretching yourself a little bit towards uncomfortability. It's really common in the fighting game space to dive into this hobby and say, I'm never going to learn frame data, or I'm only going to learn frame data. Both of those absolutionist views are a little limiting. There are things to be understood about a fighting game on an intimate sound, audio mechanical, biomechanical, intuitive level that cannot be understood if you only look at it intellectually. And there are things to be understood on an intellectual basis, mathematical basis, that cannot be understood intuitively from your heart. You should understand both elements. Of course, enjoy fighting games in whatever way you can. I'm not super hyper. Everyone's got to be competitive in this space. I am just advocating, though, to stretch yourself a bit and know that whatever limits you think you have, chances are you're full of crap. And if we extend those limits far beyond what you ever imagined, you'd be really surprised with the results. Final story today isn't one that I'm super pleased with talking about, but I think it's important to talk about because it's close to what myself and Daniel really care a lot about here at Zero Dot Media Productions, which is the human element of who we are. Before I dive into the story, a couple things. When we started Zero Dot, we used a platform called Riverside to host our podcast. And the things that we were attracted to most by Riverside was how easy it was going to be to do things like transcribe episodes, create shorts for us, do what they called magic episodes, where it would after we edited a couple of episodes ourselves, it would find what our preferences were and help create rough cuts in the vein of our old edits for us. And as three people at the time that didn't know a whole lot about podcasting, we're really excited about the prospect of being able to dive in and kind of look a little bit professional. We tried Riverside, and we used some of those AI features. We used AI features for transcription. Right now, you're seeing a transcription happen on your screen right now that is actually on a local AI module I'm using for this very purpose. It's not connected to the World Wide Web. It's just a local AI that we use here in my video editing software. We also used AI for making a lot of our shorts. We made a lot of shorts content. We made a ton of shorts content using the AI module. And Daniel he was our producer at the time, and he would do a fantastic job taking those AI module shorts and trimming them or cutting them or making some changes. And then towards the end, before we stopped making shorts altogether, which we're going to get back to later on in our careers here at Zero Dot, the last couple weeks, all the shorts was made specifically by him. And all of the clips, the longer form clips we made, were made by him with no AI interference whatsoever. And we looked at those and went, these are better. They're just better. Even though we're team human and we're team environment, we were kind of dismissive of, oh, yeah, but we're using AI. And like, but we're doing it like sustainably and ethically and all that stuff. We were wrong. I'll say that. And that was an onus on me. I should have been a better bastion of that. Since then, we've made a lot of efforts to deplatformize ourselves from Riverside. I'll talk about Riverside another time, my criticism of that platform. But as of right now, we're not hosting on Riverside, and shortly we will not be anywhere near that platform. And we do everything locally in-house, and we only use AI for, like I said, the transcription you're seeing on the screen right here. And that's basically it. Even the sound, which has an AI module to it that Riverside has, we didn't like the results of. Not to mention everything that Riverside does was server-wide and server-based, hence how AI works, right? So if something went wrong on the platform, it was a whole kit and caboodle. We couldn't just fix it ourselves. Anyway, we stepped away from that stuff. So I say this knowing that I'm going to come across as a hypocrite, and I don't mean to. But recently, a creator that I admire quite a bit, a science educator of sorts, hasn't just been caught using artificial intelligence for either their script or their brainstorming or whatever. Well, I think something worse has happened. But to uncover this, let's talk about the story at hand. I'm talking about Hank Green. Now, Hank Green, like I said, is a science creator that I quite admire quite a bit. I think Hank Green is one of the real goats. He was an inspiration for the early days of what the Zero Dot podcast was all about. And he was caught by people, or people propose that they think he was using AI of sorts. This comes from a video where Hank kind of makes an off-the-hand comment that doesn't quite land. Let's see if we can find out what that comment is. Let's do a quick listen to see if we can catch what we think might be the proof or the results or some kind of indication that Hank Green is using a learned language model for some part of his script.
There's a thing in there that matters, and that's very cool. A better way to say it, and I appreciate the pushback, is a word is a human invention, and human inventions are made by bodies and brains.
I appreciate the pushback. Pushback in what context? A lot of people believe that this is an indicator that he was reading what the AI prompt was saying to him, and the AI prompt was saying, I appreciate the pushback, and then continue with the rest of his spiel. That's what people think. They accused him of this, Hank Green, leading viewers to speculate that he'd written the script with a chatbot and in the process accidentally included its response in one of his prompts. And this story comes to us from TechCrunch, although you can find this story in other places. In a response to a since deleted post on X.com, Twitter for those that are following, Green acknowledged that he'd produced the video under a ton of pressure, quote, and used ChatGPT, quote, for research on this script, quote. At the same time, he said the pushback line was actually a response to the episode's guest. Okay, possible, probable. Green then offered a more in-depth apology on Reddit, where he said he was mortified that he'd let so many people down and that he plans to reduce his video production as a result. Oof, let's read the whole thing. 3 things to start. I'm mortified that I've let so many people down, and I think I understand how that happened. I'm going to change things about how I make stuff. Complexly's AI policy, which listed the hyperlink is right there, is public and well considered and adhered to by the whole team. I think it's worth reading. Complexly is the nonprofit that makes Crash Course and SciShow and a bunch of other shows that I do not write for. He continues, the thing that everything we do is based on is that you know that what I'm saying are my thoughts coming from my brain in the way I decide. I have made that harder, and I'm sorry. I have been relying too heavily on AI as a research aid. It can be very useful for this task, giving me access to a lot of papers I didn't know existed really fast, but I think that has been to the detriment of my work because it has not given me the freedom to find all of my own ways into and around a topic. But for clarity, the origin of claims in my videos are not ChatGPT's said this. I've been using AI to locate papers and other resources for learning about topics. You are still getting my takes based on what I read, know, and learn. I think what people have said in this thread about me diluting myself is spot on. Ooh. Ultimately, what I'm most scared of is ruining myself for people, but I have not been managing my impulses well. You need to know that my words are mine. I don't think that this hasn't been true, but I've been moving so fast that my own process isn't actually clear to me, and I want to have it be a guarantee moving forward. What I can guarantee, though, is that we will agree about this technology or what to do with it. I think that's good. We need a lot of kinds of folks critiquing this technology. I'm not a pure AI hater, which people in the AI industry know. So when I say that the way these models were trained deeply disturbs me, that lands differently. When I say that I think that the speed at which these companies are trying to consolidate economic power should freak everyone in the world, that's coming from someone who has nuanced takes, quote. When I say I worry about the climate impacts of this rollout, that is not me saying I don't think this tech should ever exist. It's me saying, for God's sake, please don't make our biggest problem worse. It's very likely that you, the reader, and I disagree on how or even whether AI should be used. I think it makes sense for that disagreement to exist. But I have also always believed that my audience is more likely to be right than I am. You know what this feels like in a way I can't. And I'm so sorry for deluding myself in this way and harming the thing we have all built together. As for the, quote, why don't you just make less? No one is making you do this, end quote. I'm not sure that's how I work. I can hear Hank saying this. I've been feeling the pressure of, quote, oh, I have this little video idea. I need to get it out real fast so I can get to the more important stuff, end quote. And I create when I feel that pressure. But making more things does not make me make better things. It does not make the big thing that I've been doing for 20 years better. I know that I can manage myself more effectively. I want to make videos like the one I made yesterday on Hank's channel, where the writing was the whole thing and I felt it all the way down. I've been so enriched by people's responses to it. And sure, I'm probably going to make dumb, unscripted, straight-to-camera thought videos sometimes. And then I'll play connections. But mostly I need to come to terms with the fact that the level of dopamine I'm getting from interacting with language learning models, with doing more and more and more and more, is not healthy for me or good for the world. It is careless and has disconnected me from where people are on this. I was talking about this with Catherine last night, and she did not pull any punches. Frankly, neither did John. Neither of them think I've been being healthy. I need to readjust. So, what changes? Expect less Hank's channel. I may need to pause for a while. It may be that Hank's channel comes back with writing and research support. It may be that it comes back with just way fewer videos. I'm going to spend this time finishing a video I've been working on for ages that I think really, really matters. 2, Smush and 4x3 are getting paused as well. If there are bugs, there are bugs. I have a backlog of 4x3 boards right now, and frankly, writing them is usually a solace to me, but if we run out, I'm not going to worry about that. So if it just reverts to a static board one day, that'll be that. I do deeply want to support Good Store in complexity in whatever way I can, so there may be some stuff on that front, but the reliance on me has always been risky, so we need to build for that as well. I'm very sorry for harming the thing this is all based on. Interesting, because it's like he's saying he did not use ChatGPT in the way that he's being accused, but he's recognizing that his over-reliant in use of ChatGPT is creating a synaptic feedback loop in his brain that his brain quite likes, that he's becoming, he didn't say these words, but it seems like he's becoming addicted to, and he needs to make a change. And he also knows that his wife, I think that's his wife, Catherine, if I understand that correctly, his brother, John, have said, hey, what you're doing is not healthy. There's a lot to unpack here. But the first thing I just want to say is my heart goes out to anyone that might be in this position. AI is a tantalizing tool. It's a powerful tool. It can do a couple of cool things, like very fast transfer of information, not accurate information, not good information, just fast. And if you're a content creator, which is what Hank Green is, and I guess technically I am now, but I'm not even close. It can be tempting to just make more and make more and make more and make more. And whatever way you can help make that process more efficient, faster, streamline it so you can satisfy demand and make more. And it's right there. It's cheap. Why not do it? I don't blame the content creator who's stuck entrenched in the game for taking that path, especially when they're in it because they don't feel like they have any other choice. Really. We had to, at Zero Dot, we had to make a couple of choices on that front. I was in my role at Zero Dot when it was just three of us. I was kind of the business guy. I didn't like that I was the business guy, but it seemed like I was the one that was keeping my hands on everything to make sure that we were going to strive to make the Zero Dot podcast, Zero Dot Media, some kind of entity that wasn't just going to like drown, whatever that meant. I felt it was my moral responsibility to ensure that Zero Dot was quote unquote profitable. I felt it was my moral responsibility that if I didn't do everything in my power that was reasonable to fulfill that promise, that I was doing wrong by then John and then and now Daniel. I thought I was doing the right thing. And I don't think I did anything AI specific, but I don't think I ever wrote off AI in the same way that I'm writing AI off now. Like, I don't think I was against using AI, a learning language model, to help give me an outline of an episode. I think I used AI a few times in, hey, give me a bunch of ideas for podcast names because we were struggling with that. And none of them were very good, but they spurred me to think of my own ideas. I didn't say no to AI when I'm like, what's a good format for a show, or what are some topics people are talking about? And I think I searched some things here and there. I want to tell you that I think I discarded most of them. But this is the problem when you do something like this and you use AI. Once you know something, you can't completely discard it. You can't completely get rid of it in your brain and your language. So yes, I think I did my due diligence, but I still used it. I still consumed tons of water. That's what these data centers are doing, consuming tons of resources and water just to feed me my prompts. I still did harm. I used AI on a couple occasions. This isn't a blast against Riverside, but they advertise an idea of giving you an AI thumbnail generator. I used that to get an idea of what a good thumbnail would be. And I did all of this, probably pissing off our art director, Daniel, in the process. I wasn't trying to tell Daniel what to do. I wasn't trying to make him do anything a way that he wasn't happy with. I thought, though, that as the quote-unquote business advisor guy, it was my job to be on the lookout for making sure we were making money in this thing. That was my goal. Like, we have to make sure we're turning some kind of profit. We're seeing some kind of momentum. I want to make sure that I'm not... I asked John and Daniel to take this massive leap with me in this podcast venture with me. And I didn't want to waste their time. I want to make sure they saw something come through with it. We had a lot of lively discussions and a lot of disagreements. And I learned a couple things over a period of time, a couple months, which was I wasn't liking the things we were making under this lens of whatever AI was kind of funneling me towards, even if I told myself I discredited most of it. And if none of us was making something we were 100% proud of and wanted to make, then what was even the point? It took me a while to learn that lesson. I'm embarrassed by that, if I'm being honest. But I'm glad I did. When I finally learned that lesson, I got my hands out of the pot. I stopped micromanaging, and Daniel became the art guy full on and just was like, you make whatever the fuck you want to make and make it the best thing you want to make as long as you feel good about it. That was the only goal. And I love every single one of the thumbnails he's made, all of our art, all of our logo. I love every single thing he's made. And I'm happy that we made that decision. I'm happy we stepped away from Riverside's AI soft editing software. I'm happy that we decided to make more specific changes to how the show worked towards the end. And I'm happy that towards the end of our shorts making ventures, we said, no, we don't want to do any of this AI stuff. We want to make our own shorts, or we want to just stop making them altogether until we can make something we're proud of. And we're still doing this. Like, we're still evolving. So I totally resonate and get with Hank's position, and I appreciate his humility, and I appreciate his want to be straightforward and honest with how he's feeling, and I appreciate his vulnerability. I mean, those are all things I can appreciate. But if it's okay, I mean, it isn't, because Hank Green isn't here. I want to offer advice to anyone that's in a Hank Green-like position in this specific scenario. Using AI and recognizing you're using too much of it, recognizing you've got a dopamine fix on it. And the one comment that he makes in this post that's really, really, really important. Right here. When people say, why don't you make less things? Because that seems like the solution here. I'm not sure that's how I work. I've been feeling the pressure of, oh, I have this little video idea. I need to get it out real fast so I can get to the more important stuff. And I create when I feel that pressure. Just needing that kind of pressure cooker approach to making stuff. Recognizing that making constantly doesn't allow you to focus on the bigger things you want to be making. But also recognizing that maybe that's how your brain operates. Keeping all of that in mind. If you were telling me this is the same thing that Hank was saying to me, I'd say to you, it sounds like you are incredibly uncomfortable with something about yourself that you're avoiding. And I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is? The way I'm reading this is it sounds like Hank is a very high performing achiever. By that, I mean, he's able to be high functioning amidst all the stuff going on in his life. And if he's happy doing that and there's no chaos to your family and you're able to find some kind of homeostasis and, you know, screw me, I got nothing to say. But it sounds like there's something to be said here. It sounds like the over-reliance of learning language models, whether it's for research or scripting or whatever, is a result of feeling this pressure to constantly make something. And it sounds like he's taking that appropriate step back to do that, which is good. My question would be, where's that pressure coming from? Who is telling you you have to do all of this? Because when I go back to my story about the pressure I was putting on myself, the only person that was telling me to do that was me. I was the one accepting the moral responsibility. I was the one that thought that I would do whatever it took to make sure things were successful. But John didn't care and Daniel didn't care. They were just happy we were doing it. And I ran into a real wall where I thought, you know what? If I keep going down this path, I might not just push them away, but they might be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that was the whole point, is that we'd want to do this together. I'm really lucky that I caught that as early as I did, because I could not have. I almost didn't, but I'm glad I did. And I realized I was afraid. I was afraid of letting people down. I was afraid of being less. I was afraid of an expectation held for me that no one actually had for me, but I thought maybe they did. Hank Green. We had a short. I had a short filmed that was like making fun of your podcast because you were calling it Humans and was audio only. And your theming was black and yellow. And our theming was black and yellow. And our slogan was Team Human. And we were going audio only for a little bit. I was making fun of you for a minute, but we never posted it. And I'm not going to. I want you to know that I see you as one of the good ones. This is I was about to say this is a stumble. It's not really even a stumble. I love the fact that you are seeing the dissatisfaction your community that you have created has caused and holding that to yourself and go, is this the values that I want to espouse? I'm a little afraid that there might be an element of you being so afraid of disappointing people and that you hold up the people's expectations to such esteem that it might result in burnout and breaking you. I say that as someone who's not quite a friend, but if I was your friend, I'd love to be your friend, and that's what I would say to you. I'm worried about that. And I'm not here to talk about AI versus not. I think there's probably topics on that you and I would disagree on. What I am saying, though, is that when people see the real you, the sloppy you, the ums, the uhs, they resonate more. Hank, you have this amazing and incredible style where it's like everything is cut. There's no breathing room. And that's because of the algorithm in the space. And I get that. I really do. But we've actually made a conscious effort here to leave a lot of that breathing and a lot of that talking, a lot of that space to exist in the podcast. Our transitions are longer than they probably should be, just to give things life and breath. And if the algorithm doesn't like that, okay. That's okay. We're okay with that. We've accepted that cost. And I wonder what benefit you would have if you did something similar in all the ways in which you thought you couldn't accept that cost, but maybe you could. And that's to anyone in Hank's position. We're not infallible. We're all human beings. But Hank, you're not listening to this, but if we were talking, can I just say something to you? I think I saw a Reddit comment say this too, so it's not even truly my original idea, but I'm kind of relieved that you've been using a lot of AI because I watch all of your stuff. You make a lot of stuff, and I'm like, how does this guy do this? I mean, yeah, I have a full-time job, and Daniel has a job, and I do what I can in my free time, sure. There's elements of that, and you might have a team behind you and such, and this is your thing. But like you have your hands in so many different pots, and you're still making it, and you don't stop. That when I got a whiff that maybe AI is doing a lot more heavy lifting than you've ever truly been open and implied about. I know your policy, I've seen that, but like when I got that little whiff, I'm like, oh, I feel a little bit better about myself. And I wonder if all of this is a gentle, beautiful gift in reminding you that maybe you should match the pace of the avatar of yourself you want others to follow, as opposed to trying to race to some kind of invisible visage and idol that doesn't even exist. I wonder. In any case, I wish you good well, Hank Green. You'll get out of this. You'll be fine. Maybe someday we'll have a nice chat about this stuff. But in the meantime, keep fighting the good fight. Wrapping things up, we have just one more thing I want to talk to you all about, as is popular tradition here at Zero Dot. Focus on life issues and life things, and do blind reacts to people's questions and comments on Reddit. Now, usually, as a leadership consultant, we focus on leadership stuff, but I thought it'd be better to talk about just generalized life stuff, if we possibly could. Just generalized life stuff. And so with that, let's dive into the literal Reddit life section. Just posted 57 minutes ago. This person says, should I get a second bachelor's degree to redo my college experience? Interesting. Redo my college experience. So you've already done it. You want to redo it. Let's see. I graduated college 2 years ago. So you've had your degree for 2 years. Started during the pandemic. I went to a college that had really strict rules and didn't get a good start to my college life because of quarantine. Oh, yeah, okay, I can see that. I also come from an abusive home that kind of ruined it further. Oof. Okay. I never really made friends or joined clubs, and although I know that time is long gone, I wonder if I should go back. I know I can't redo it. And the people in college are younger than me, so I can't really be friends with them. I want to go back to network and find myself. Something that my abusive family didn't let me do and kept me home. Here's the question. Wait, something that my abusive family didn't let me do and kept me home. Okay. Here's the question. I graduated undergrad with a psych bachelor's and a 4.0 GPA with no loans. Oh, wow. Good for you. So you don't owe any debt. That's great. I do want to switch careers. If I get a second bachelor's, I would want to switch to business, though, accounting or supply chain. The other option is to get a master's in one of those. I feel like my life never started despite the fact it's been years since college started and now 2 years since it ended. So should I go back to get a second bachelor's in a new career I want and also try to make it up for what I lost, or get a master's in the new career I want? Any advice is much appreciated. Thank you. And the one comment we have here is, hell yeah, you should. Bonus points if you get someone else to pay for it. Are you employed? Good question to ask. Good question to ask. All right. This is good. You want to get a second opportunity to have that same experience. That's a kind of a beautiful thing, and I don't want to poo-poo that. I do feel the need to talk about and kind of give some expression to some myths that you might be holding on to that won't be true, and you won't find out until you've already spent all the hard-earned money and done the thing. You'll never be able to recreate what a college experience would have been like in the moment in time that you're trying to replace. It's just not going to happen. You're a different person. And you said it, they'll be a lot younger than you. So that camaraderie is going to be different. There's going to be this age displacement. There's a little bit of distance between you and them that you'll never be able to truly sandwich together. And so you'll be frustrated by the fact that you're trying to use this as a way to give yourself a second chance. But the experience will never match whatever you had in your head. I'm not saying don't do this. I'm saying, what is your purpose in doing this beyond networking and feeling like you can relive this part of your life? And the answer probably is you don't know, and I don't know either. You probably get a very unusual experience, but kind of a cool experience too. If you can afford it and pay for it, like the person said below you, that you have a career, you have a job that'll do some of it, that might dictate whether you get a bachelor's or a master's. Once you get one bachelor's, you can absolutely get a master's. For a curriculum, criteria, a genre, a piece of education that is not related to your current bachelor's. Those programs exist. I won't advise more on that, but that is always a possibility. And if your goal is upwards trajectory, that might not be a bad idea. You want to switch to business, accounting, or supply chain. That's interesting because you have a psych bachelor's. You want to go to business. And you use the words switch. I would think you'd want to think of it like you're adding to. You're adding to what you already owe. You have a bachelor's understanding and you have a business understanding, but you are using the language switch as if you don't even like that you have a psych bachelor's degree. And that would be a mistake, I think. I would want to think about how you can use your psych bachelor's in a way that enhances whatever business avenue you want to go into and really make yourself marketable and unique in that particular space. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to go for here. I will say there's a lot of people in accounting. There's a lot of people in supply chain, a lot of people with those degrees. And a lot of those people are struggling right now to get jobs. So what I would say, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, not to do. I would say your raison d'etre, your modus operandi, whatever you want to say, your reason for doing this has to be either guaranteed that's going to give you job satisfaction and it's going to be a career you love, or you think there's a market for it. Now, you never know if there's going to be a market for it because by 2 to 4 to 3 years, you never know what's going to happen. So I would say it has to be something that really motivates you, compels you, and you love it. But to answer your question, I can't answer the question, only you can. What motivates you? What's your why? And how do you think this will shape you to be the person you want to become? And along the way, you'll get that some kind of college facsimile experience. Who knows what it will actually look and feel like? You might be really surprised by the results. But who's the person you want to be and why? And have that motivate you. Is it tied to your job? Is it not tied to your job? And how can you not treat the past 4 years you did as like, we'll switch and we're just going to dismiss it and trade it and act like you can just add to what you currently know? I think that'll create a lot more satisfaction within yourself, satisfaction within your life. And and I think you'll be really proud of yourself. So that's my advice to you. You didn't ask for it, but I wish you the best. Cheers, my guy. That has been our show here. Another episode of The Counter Hit. What did you like? What didn't you like? We're going to have shows every single week talking about all different kinds of topics, from human issues, global issues, arts issues, video game issues, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sam Kirk. Daniel Prattley is our co-founder in the background, making all of this happen for you all. Come join us next week on all platforms that broadcast podcasts: YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, everywhere you name it. You can also check us out at thecounterhit.com for more details, and check our Patreon at patreon.com/zero.media. Until next time, stay human. Cheers.